Chanel O'Carroll at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and on behalf of Hollywood Forever, we are very glad to welcome you to the 81st Annual Memorial Service in honor of Rudolph Valentino. Throughout the decades, this yearly event has seen great crowds and intense emotion to smaller crowds in solemn reverence. What does not waver is the respect and admiration that fills this cathedral when people such as yourselves take the time and opportunity to celebrate this man's life and work. So we are very grateful to see you all here today, and we thank you for being a part of this long-standing Hollywood tradition. Before we begin, if you do have a cell phone, please take this opportunity to check, make sure it's either silent or off for the duration of our service today. And without further ado, we will start this lovely afternoon with the
Thank you, everyone, for coming to this time-honored event in Hollywood. I was thinking last night, of the history, the rich history of this event. If you had come here 11 years ago to the Valentino Memorial, you would have found 5 folding chairs up front, 14 people standing in the back, and the master of ceremonies asking people to donate $5 for chairs for the next year. I thought, well, this is it. But what's happened since then to see the crowds that are here today? In 1998, Tyler Cassidy purchased the cemetery, and without going into detail, it's obvious the results that he's achieved. In 2003, Emily Leiter wrote one of the best biographies that are out there on Valentino called Dark Lover. 2004, I wrote a book called Valentino Forever, The History of the Valentino Memorial Services. Never before had a book been printed on that subject. If there was any mention in any prior Valentino books, it's usually a paragraph about the event and sort of a nod and a wink about the lady in black. 2005, Alan Ellenberger had this book come out called The Valentino Mystique, which had full details of the final month of Valentino's life and a list of chronicled events in his career, places you can go see him, and it's a great reference tool. 2006 saw the discovery of Beyond the Rocks, a long thought lost Valentino film co-starring Gloria Swanson. 2007 saw Jeffrey Messino heading Flicker Valley, the Valentino Collection, the comprehensive collection, some of them from the Library of Moving Images, with Michael Yakitis. We saw The Young Raja, another lost film that we thought, and it's been restored and now available in a pristine set. So here we are today, another generation later, 10, 11 years from what I just described, and everyone's here. So certainly it's wonderful, and I am glad to be a part of it. I had this poem called A Toast to Valentino. It was written for the Valentino Memorial 25 years ago. I thought, how nice it would be to repeat that today. Let's raise a glass of vino and toast to Rudolph Valentino. He played the sheik at the movie show, keeping many a heart aglow. This, of course, we already know. Valentino inspired many songs and melodies which bring back pleasant memories. This Latin lover had quite the flair with his foreboding brown eye and hypnotic stare. Rudy, his life was brief, the end brought grief, and millions mourned beyond belief. Yet is still fondly remembered today as though this young 31-year-old never went away. So each year on this day that he passed away, to Valentino respects they pay. Among them, Michael and Virginia Back and the legendary Lady in Black. They consider it their sacred duty to be honoring their beloved Rudy. Oh, they'll be back again next year for yet another generation to hear. Let's raise a glass of vino and toast to Rudolph Valentino. Privilege to introduce someone who's a legend to us here today, the legendary Bob Mitchell, who will be singing.
Can you hear me? My first knowledge of Valentino occurred in 1921. In the village where I lived, there was no theater, but nearby Pasadena had enough population to support 4 theaters running continuous shows 5 times a day. The family next door to us went down and saw the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We none of us knew what the apocalypse was. It's actually derived from a Greek word meaning revelation, the last book in the Bible. And the 4 horsemen represent the 4 evils of mankind: invasion, plague, war, and death. And we, after that, the same year, Valentino made The Sheik. And this was so shocking to the public because Lady Diana is abducted and raped by the Sheik. And the unbelievable thing to people who were very ethical, she loved it and couldn't wait till the next time she was raped. So naturally, we didn't see any Valentino pictures until 1924. It was advertised that Valentino would make Monsieur Beaucaire, and that was composed. It was a story by Booth Tarkington, who wrote family-type things like Penrod and Sam. My mother and father decided to be nothing objectionable, and I had the privilege of seeing it 3 times at the $1 Million Theater with the symphony orchestra and the pipe organ, and a whole prologue with a special song written for it, Red, Red Rose. Well, my mother, of course, had never seen Valentino, and actually she was so enthralled with him, and the girls were all crazy about it after seeing him in the 4 Horsemen, and the men all admired him because we wanted to be as attractive to the girls as he was, and we used to put Vaseline on our hair, and this is the days before washing machines, and the mothers didn't appreciate that. They had to scrub with their on the washboard to get the Vaseline out of the pillow slips. Well, when my mother saw Valentino, of course, she was absolutely enthralled, and we got to see that 3 times. Then, when the same year, 1924, Valentino made The Sainted Devil, and my mother never thought that there might be some moral issue. She was so thrilled. So we went back to $1 Million, and I had the opportunity to see a very simple picture where he had an affair with 4 women. So that was my privilege. And so we'd like to now recall Valentino in song. And here is, with the assistance of Vince Morton, here is a song that was inspired, not written for the picture, but inspired by the picture afterward, and it's called You, My Love. Vincent? You, my love, are far beyond my fondest dream. You, my love, are more than dreams could ever see. You, my love, outgleam the brightest stars that shine, for you're so heavenly. I can't believe you're mine. You, my love, are sweeter than a poet's song. You, my love, with you, I'll always sing along. Now I know until the end we'll never part. And so, to you, my love, I give my heart. Vincent, play the melody for us. banners he unfurled. He loved, he danced, he tangled into our hearts one day. His loving arms thrilled everyone up to this very day. His fame lives on forever for Valentino's Valentino's memory with us will always remain.
Wow.
Top that.
I'd like to introduce now, to read a selection of poems from Daydreams, Garrett Bryant. Please welcome Garrett Bryant.
Well, I knew that's a hard act to follow, but I had the privilege of hearing Bob Mitchell play some of Valentino's films at the Silent Movie Theater, and I was just blown away, I mean, non-stop. So now I get to hear him sing as well. So, right. In 1923, Rudolph wrote a book of poetry called Daydreams, and you know, it's truly an honor just to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. You know, none of us here knew Valentino, young and old, so it's a privilege to be here, and it just speaks by the numbers that are in this room, the impact that he did have on everyone here. None of us knew him personally, but you can see by everybody here the impact that he left. So I'm going to read a couple selections from the poetry that he wrote, and this first poem is called The Philosophy of a Pessimist. I do not care for money made easily. It is not lasting, I know. I do not care for friends made easily. They are not lasting, I know. I do not care for anything that comes easily. It never lasts, I know. But I fell in love with you easily, but not lastingly, I know. And the second is untitled. On a stretch of sandy beach, I see not of human presence, but upon looking closer, a remembrance of the past. I sit upon a rock and meditate upon what once was. I see myself in all the splendor of my youth. I see my boon companion, Hope, and the other one, whose name I'd best forget. We walked, Hope and I, but ever the unnamed one stalked by my side. I finally forget my Hope to gaze in the interest of the other. Hope, neglected, lags behind until we walk alone, myself and the unnamed one. We walk forever, but the walk brings us to the abyss of the world. What name has the one whose identity I fail to know? O eternity, thou art my sight and knowledge. It was doubt whose companion I became. Thank you.
I'm pleased right now to be able to introduce our guest speaker, Tim Considine. We welcome him to the Valentino Memorial. He's an accomplished actor. He worked with legendary people such as Greer Garson, Red Skelton, George C. Scott. Best of all for me, he knew and worked for Walt Disney. He starred in the Spin and Marty series, the Hardy Boys series. He even cut his own record, singing the title song, the Triple R song. Multi-talented. In 2006, he was named a Disney legend, and rightfully so. Speaking for the first time publicly on his father, John W. Constantine Jr., he's joined us here today. But first, we're going to do a short, brief intro video on his father. So let's watch that now. And that'll be accompanied by Bob Mitchell. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tim Considine.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here, very honored to be here. I did not know about this. It kind of sticks me in the heart. When Tracy first asked me to come, I said, well, I thought it would be presumptuous because I don't really have any contact with or particular knowledge of Rudolph Valentino, only through my father, and I have very few memories of what he spoke about Valentino, to tell you the truth. I have very few memories about anything, I find. But he said that to speak about my father and that I can do. I'm writing a book now about the history of my family, and so I thought for myself, well, this is also a way to honor my father. I didn't know about this video, which, as I said, kind of stuck me. But I can talk about how my father came to be associated with Valentino. I skipped ahead in my research because I'm not quite up to this era in the book. It really all happened because of Joe Skank. Joe Skank was a partner in United Artists, and actually I think was responsible for bringing Mr. Valentino to United Artists. And to go back a bit in my family, the connection with Mr. Skank was that my grandfather, my father's father, had actually the first transcontinental vaudeville circuit in the country, in the world, I suppose, Sullivan and Considine. And in 1914, he sold that circuit to Marcus Lowe, and Joe Skank booked acts for Marcus Lowe, so they became friends then. as it turned out, that was in 1914. That was also the year for all intents and purposes, the First World War started. Within a year, actually even sooner, Marcus Lowe, through a force majeure clause in the contract, turned the circuit back to my grandfather, who was stuck with it because of the war, and also because they made some changes in the way that acts were booked and so on and so forth. It was ruined by the time he got it back. He tried for a year to save it and failed. And in 1917, the Sullivan and Considine Company actually went bankrupt. But the friendship with Joseph Schenck remained. My father was in school at this time. He was in school not to learn how to be a producer or have anything to do with the motion picture, the fairly new motion picture industry. But there were also some mining interests in the family. So he went to Yale, studied mining, and then he went to Oxford. And when he came back, the first job he got, really, was working for Joe Schenck. And I always wondered if that was kind of a payback, because of the bad luck with the war and turning the circuit back. But for whatever reason, he went to work for Joe Schenck. I knew Joe Schenck as a little boy because he was one of my best customers when I sold lemonade. And I would be on 707 Cannon Drive, and this older gentleman would walk down and say, "Oh, I'd love some lemonade," so he was a hero of mine. I didn't know anything about this other than he was a friend. But he also gave my father the opportunity to produce his first movie, so he did. And then his second movie happened at about the time that Mr. Valentino came to the package. And that movie apparently was quite important in Valentino's career. He had some not successful movies, had contract difficulties with Paramount, and was not allowed to work in any other movie, so he went on a dancing tour with his wife. When Schenck put this together, it allowed him to get back on the screen. And my father was fortunate enough to produce The Eagle, which was, as I said, a kind of a comeback picture for him. That worked out well. That's one of the only memories that I have, is I remember my father saying that, because I thought it was very strange, that his wife was not allowed on the set. And I thought, that's kind of peculiar. And later, I found out why, and I looked into it obviously recently more. I think she got a bum rap, actually. She was quite talented, is what I read. But to have more than one or two creative people on a set when you're trying to make a movie is not a great recipe for success. So they kept her away from the set. In any case, the next movie that he made was Son of the Sheep. And that turned out to be extraordinarily successful, and unfortunately he died just as that was coming out, and which probably, as we know now, probably had something to do with the incredible success. This is an icon who dies young and very popular at the moment that he dies. I was trying to think if there was anybody in the modern era who could be likened to the impact that this man made. And not really, but the closest I got was maybe James Dean. But let's see, in 80 years, if people gather like this, or David Smith, archivist for Walt Disney, he suggested maybe Elvis Presley. But again, we'll see in 80 years if it's like this. I think this is a unique case in history. I'm honored to be here and privileged to be some kind of a part of it through my father. I think that was a very special time in history. I found something interesting. He was involved in the burial and the funeral. He was a pallbearer and all. And the funeral on this coast was at Good Shepherd Church, which we have some history with. My father's uncle was the architect for Good Shepherd Church. I was baptized and confirmed in Good Shepherd Church. And I found something else, and I suppose you could say 82 years back from, just short of 82 years back from this day. My father was one of the people who came into this building and sent Mr. Valentino off, so to speak. But I found something that recalled another memory of mine, my father speaking about Valentino, when I looked in the Los Angeles Times archives. There was a story just after he was dead. It was on August 26th. And the story was called "Film World Mourns for Rudy." And I remembered after I read this, that my father did say that Valentino had told him of a premonition of an early death. And I'd forgotten that until I read this story. And I'll quote it. It says, the story says, several times, this is my father speaking, several times Valentino told me, "I will die young. I know it, and I shall not be sorry. I should hate to live to be an old man." That was said on September the 7th, 26. I'm honored to be here to honor Mr. Valentino and my father. And thank you, Tracy. Thank you, everyone.
We have a little surprise for Tim. On behalf of the Valentino Committee, Marvin Page, Stella Grace, Chanel, and myself, we want to present you with a picture of your father on the set with Valentino of the eagle. You just heard him speak about the eagle, and here it is, and this is for our gratitude to you for coming today. We now have someone with us who I've known quite a while. He's an authority on movie dolls. Deanna Durbin, Judy Garland, Shirley Temple. But what we see here is a very rare doll produced for the eagle, obviously. And here to tell us about the doll is Woolsey Ackerman. Please welcome Woolsey Ackerman.
Rudolph Valentino attended the lavish premiere, New York City premiere of The Eagle, held at the Mark Strand Theater during the week of November 8, 1925. The theater was stampeded by the crowd wanting to see him, and traffic was blocked from noon to late afternoon. Valentino and UA press agent Beulah Livingston were police escorted through the mob scene. Valentino spoke on stage. Specially minted coins to promote and merchandise the event were strewn in the streets. Noted by the papers was the absence of Mrs. Valentino and Mr. Valentino's matinee trip to the Hippodrome with Mae Murray. 2 weeks later, on November 22nd, Valentino attended the London premiere of the film at the Marble Arch Theater. He was en route to Paris to establish residency for divorce proceedings. Filmmaking, big premieres, mob scenes, divorce, controversy, merchandising, and promotion. That is the life of a film star, and Rudolph Valentino set the pace. So idolized was he in his time that he was more heavily merchandised than most of his contemporaries. Star and film merchandising came into full swing in the 1930s with Disney and Shirley Temple. But it had existed from the beginning, particularly in doll form. During Valentino's career, at least 4 different dolls were commercially produced. Certainly, his exotic characters and colorful costumes helped inspire these. One was for his famous 1923 Mineral Lava Tour. The doll featured Rudy in his gaucho costume from the Four Horsemen film, his greatest screen triumph. This Mineral Lava doll were given to each beauty selected in the various towns across the country on the tour, 88 in all. Another doll was dressed as his character Juan Yardo, a Spanish bullfighter in blood and sand. The best known doll is a lavish, all-felt doll created of him in costume from what was sadly his final film, Son of the Sheik. This famous doll was made by the Lenzi Company of Italy in 1927. A very unusual, obscure, and somewhat mysterious Valentino doll is the one I have with me here today. This 24-inch portrait doll is costumed just as the famed costumer Adrian dressed Valentino for his classic starring role in The Eagle. This Eagle doll was made in 1925 by the La Rosa Company of Milano, Corso, Venezia, Italy. There are markings on his feet, including Kia, the Italian word for eagle. His molded masked face is of a felt material. His clothing is wool felt, and his body is wool over wire armature. It seems that this company made this doll for a special event in a very limited edition. There is a story that this doll was featured in the lobby display at either the New York or London film premiere. Certainly merchandise was being done for the promotion of this film, and often unusual pieces would be done, especially for European distribution. It was an unusual event for the time to host a world premiere of an American film in London, and it was covered by the London media as a major event. Hosting the film in London and having Rudolph Valentino attend was certainly an indication of his worldwide fame. This doll was acquired from a London collector whose uncle had worked in the London film industry as a costumer, which leads me to believe that this doll was promoted at the London showing. The doll is in near mint condition with original clothing, and I have here a copy of the British book edition, which you can see the doll is dressed exactly as Adrian costumed for the film. I think he's a fine portrait of the great star Rudolph Valentino. He's here today for you to enjoy on this special day when you're all gathered here to appreciate and remember Rudolph Valentino.
Thank you, Uli. Now we're going to have a little more music. One of our mainstays here at the Valentino Memorial is Ian Wickham. Now, his wife Regina has been here with him in the past, and I'm pleased to say that she's here with us today. So please welcome Ian and Regina Wickham to the Valentino Memorial.
But I have to work it out with you, the ladies, so I don't knock Regina here. All right. Anyway, this song you've heard me sing before. It's a wonderful song. I don't think I've done it that much with Regina. As we heard, Valentino was marketed extensively, and of course this marketing was not lost on the denizens of Tin Pan Alley. And they were quick to come out with a song about him. I'm just raising the mic slightly. When he died. This is a song, I've got the original copy here. There's a New Star in Heaven Tonight, Rudolph Valentino, published by Jack Mills. Jack and Irving Mills were stalwarts of the Alley. They had a very successful company. Irving Mills, of course, went on to discover, in a way, Calloway and Duke Ellington, and Hoagy Carmichael. So here they are in those days with their song. It was, I see it says written by Mr. Mills. He didn't, he just got his name on there. The tune is by Jimmy McHugh, who of course went on to write The Sunny Side of the Street and I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And the words, which are beautiful words, are by nice Irish name, J. Kieran Brennan, writer of A Little Bit of Heaven. So here it is with Vince to accompany us. I'll do the verse with little Yuki here, and they don't come in. Stars may come and
stars may go up there in that starry space, but when one falls, God always calls a star to take its place.
There's a new star in heaven tonight, and it's
Never fade
from our side. There's a new star at home in that heavenly dome, smiling down on everyone tonight.
There's a voice singing, lead kindly light,
With a smile that has made the world bright.
Valentino, goodbye, on way up in the sky. There's a new star in heaven tonight. There's a new star in heaven tonight that will never fade from our sight. There's a new star in that far starry dome, gazing down at everyone tonight. There's a voice singing, lead kindly light, with a smile that has made the world bright. Valentino, goodbye, but way up in the sky, there's a new star in heaven tonight.
I love these songs, and speaking of somebody who was once in the world of rock and roll, it's a pleasure not to be in that world anymore, to be in this more gentle and romantic world. I thought those poems by Valentino were absolutely wonderful poems. I mean, I'd love to get, are they published? I'd love to get a copy of them. They're terrific. Anyway, here's another song that was associated with it, which was written at the time that The Chic came out. Actually, I think it was inspired by the book. And this is called, of course, the famous Chic of Araby, which I'm going to sing with its verse. And this was written by Ted Snyder, who brought us Who's Sorry Now, and various other great songs, was a partner of Irving Berlin's. And a man called Wheeler wrote the words, and I know that Bob, who I've known for years, loves this song. In fact, Bob knew the Chic. Always verse. Over the desert, wild and free, rides the bold Chic of Araby. His Arab band, at his command, follow his love's caravan. Under the shadow of the palms, he sings to call her to his arms, and then the Yuki will do. Here we go, Bob. I'm the Chic of Araby. Your love belongs to me. At night, when you're asleep, into your tent I'll creep, 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 creep. Are the stars that shine above will light our way to love. Your rules land with me. I'm the Chic of Araby. Everybody now, I'm the Chic of Araby. Yes to me, no possibility. Your love belongs to me. Yes to me, not to you, but to me each night. When you're asleep, not awake, asleep. Into your tent to get applause, isn't it? That's why we get on the stage. But anyway, as I said, it's lovely to be here because the other night I was in Santa Monica Pier watching some of my old British invaders, Jerry and the Pacemakers and Pete from the Goldman, and I wanted to be on the stage again, but I'd rather be here to sing these beautiful, beautiful songs. And here's a lovely song which we always end our little thing with, and it's a lovely song written again by Mr. Kiernan Brennan and Ernest Ball, and it's called Let the Rest of the World Go By. I'll do the verse and then we'll all come in on it, if that's how it. Yeah. Is this trouble strike? Do I do the first line here? Is this trouble and strife we find in this life really worthwhile after all?
Thank you for singing that song again. I told Regina when she got here, I said, you sang a song one time, it was such a favorite of mine, I even downloaded it on iTunes. It let the rest of the world go by. She said, we're singing it today. So I'm very pleased. That's a great song.
Did you download my version?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Sorry, yes. No, it has to be you and Regina. Next, we are going to present a new video as a tribute this year to Rudolph Valentino. And I was looking through some period items, and 1926 when he passed away, they were trying to conjure up what was it about this man above others. And this was one little quote that I'm going to read that you'll see why when you see the video. And this is the quote they said when they were trying to figure out what was it about Valentino. Quote, his eyes were an outstanding mark of him. The eye is often referred to as the window of the soul, and a true definition in this case of Valentino. There was more soul in his eyes than in any other part of his handsome face. So with that, we'll see the Valentino Memorial video.
Who is the man behind the eyes that hypnotize? He lights up the silver screen with his piercing eyes. He must have written the sacred book, Passion 101. He could undress me with only his eyes, even if I tried to run. Who is the man behind the eyes that hypnotize? He lights up the silver screen with his longing eyes. What dreams cry out from his soul that set our hearts ablaze? I feel those dreams radiate through his steady gaze. Who is the man behind the eyes that hypnotize? He lights up the silver screen with his caring eyes. silver screen with his dancing eyes. Who is the man behind the eyes that hypnotize? He lights up the silver screen with his loving eyes. Who is the man behind the eyes that hypnotize? He lights up the silver screen with his loving eyes.
Now, to conclude our service today, it's my honor to welcome to the podium again the one, the only Stella Grace.
I certainly want to thank everybody for coming. We, the committee here, do this for you. And as part of that, at the back of the program is the 23rd Psalm. The reason we're including everybody, we want you to feel like you're a part of us. So if you'll all return to the back of the program, we're going to recite the 23rd Psalm. Will you play? The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Thou art with me. Thy rod, thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Valentino committee that's here today. Chanel Farrow, Stella Grace, Marvin Page. I'd also ask you to, and I'll ask them to stand up as they are introduced, and please give them a round of applause. Our guest speakers today, which include the legendary Bob Mitchell, Garrett Bryant, Tim Considine, Wolfie Ackerman, Ian and Regina Whitcomb, and thank you, because now you're part of Hollywood history. And Vince Morton, who accompanied me. There's another piece on closing the service that I found from 1926, someone else trying to conjure up just about Valentino, but this person had more foresight than they knew. This is written in 1926, quote, "Let this prophecy go forth in the case of Valentino. He will be a topic of conversation a year from today, 5 years from today, and many years beyond. 82 years ago today, he died, so truly, this person knew what they were talking about. I have a couple announcements to make. On the way to pay your respects to Valentino down the corridor, please visit the displays, courtesy of Marvin Page. There will be no Valentino screening this evening, as the tradition in the past has been. If you need more Valentino, the Hollywood Heritage, right across the street from the Hollywood Bowl, is open to 4 o'clock. There's a wonderful Valentino exhibit that is there. So thank you for coming to the Valentino Memorial Service once again. Thank you.